Willkommen bei Werkstatt Zukunft, heute aus der Forumskirche St. Peter. Hinter mir sehen Sie die Ausstellung Frauen geben Frieden ein Gesicht, in der Lebensgeschichten von 20 bosnischen Frauen ausgestellt werden. Und darum geht es. Welchen Einfluss haben Frauen auf Friedensprozessen in Bosnien-Herzegowina und weltweit? Damals und heute. Heute wenden wir den Blick in die Ukraine, in der seit fast 2 Jahren ununterbrochen der russische Angriffskrieg tobt. Ich werde jetzt auf Englisch weitermachen, es wird aber gleich Untertitel geben. I'm going to continue in English now. Our guest today is Tetiana Kryokowska from Donetsk in Ukraine. So nice to see you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
When I think about war, I think about men who kill one another. And in TV, I see images of women who are crying and mourning for their men and sons. But I'm sure that women contribute more to peace and war than sitting at home and waiting for their men. So I'm very excited to learn more today. Tanya, you're from Donetsk, in the southeast of Ukraine. And that means the war did not start 2 years ago, but 2014, when the Russian aggression started and the annexion of your hometown started. How has your life changed since then?
Since 2014, so since 2014, my life changed completely. In our family, we say that war is part of our family since 2014. My parents had to flee, and I was supporting them because I already was studying in Kiev. I was studying law. And I would say that since that times we are fighting for having our home. We had to left our home in Donetsk, and in 2022 I made a decision to leave Kiev, where I've been living last 10 years. And of course it's about losing feeling that you even have a home. But it's also a lot about fighting aggression, about spreading word about Ukraine. It's about supporting army of Ukraine, because in my perspective, in my life, war, it doesn't when one man kill another man, it's when one is attacking and one is protecting themselves.
That is a very good concretization, actually. You mentioned already many things. I will ask for them more in detail later. One thing is that I read that you founded the NGO Tolerance in You. What kind of projects do you do in there?
So we are a youth organization, and we are working with youth and young women. We are promoting dialogue between youth from Ukraine and other European countries by organizing culture, international youth exchanges. We are also dealing a lot with culture of remembrance, and that is why we have a lot of partners from Germany, because in Germany the sphere is also quite developed after Second World War, and we appreciate experience of our colleagues from Germany a lot. And now our main task, our main focus is to fight this isolation that war brings to the youth of Ukraine and to the young women. So we are doing projects to empowering women, to give them a voice. They are coming to Poland or Germany or other countries where our partners based, to have a support from youth from other countries, to spread the word what is really going on in Ukraine, because the picture in media and picture of real life, it's sometimes different much.
That's astonishing. That's exciting. Well done. What was the role of women? What was the image of a woman in Ukraine before the war started?
Oh, it's quite difficult for me to describe the image of a woman before the war, but I could maybe rather talk about how it changed from my perspective. And I think very active participation of most of the women in this war from 2014 actually changed gender roles a lot. And as you said in the beginning, I completely agree that women now in Ukraine, it's not just a person who is sitting and waiting for a man to come from a war, as maybe we used to think from books about Second World War and other wars. Now women is very much involved to the fight and stopping aggression on a different level, starting from doing educational projects like we are doing, fighting propaganda, making volunteering work, or establishing NGOs that supporting with humanitarian help, or even going and joining voluntarily Army of Ukraine to fight on this level too.
You spoke about women in Ukraine now. Are there female movements in the European realm of women who came here as refugees since the war, who engage for peace or at least for the end of the war?
We don't consider ourselves as the refugees. We consider ourselves as people who are having a temporary protection in EU, and we are addressing this with the main goal to not allow stereotypes that usually come up in the head when you hear term refugee. And I can't say actually that we are fighting for peace. We are fighting for the stopping aggression. I mean, Ukraine had a peace before 2014. And we do understand that we could not come back to this year because many things changed since that time, and war has changed. But what we are doing, we are trying to build a dialogue with our international partners, also with just random people. And I know the communities of women from Ukraine who are also doing it on a different levels, going to demonstrations as a civil society activist, or maybe just making Sprachcafé for learning German, for adaptation, but also for having a direct dialogue with another people, because we believe that this is actually very important, and this has changed picture about war in Ukraine in people's mind.
I can imagine that this is very important. How do you perceive the reactions of the Germans to those projects?
I never faced any negative reaction. I really appreciate big support and help of people in Germany, but we always speak, how to say it in English? But we always divide support and reaction of people and support of government of Germany. As an independent non-government organization, we do have right to be critical to our government in Ukraine, but also to some decision of government in Germany. But if you're asking me about level people to people, we always have a good support, and I'm also using this opportunity, would like to say thank you for many people in Germany who actually not just joining our projects, but also initiating some ideas and inviting us. We appreciate that a lot.
That makes me happy to hear. That leads me to another question, and that is that there is a lot of support from the German side, maybe in administrative, but also in personal levels. Like many people from Ukraine have a home, or their children can go to school, or people can work. But I can imagine that this doesn't compensate the suffering people go through with knowing their husbands, their partners, their fathers are in war. How do the people feel here? How are they going?
Of course, it's not compensating, but it's also very important to have a basic needs covered. And of course, they are covered by many law that Germany has, and I just don't want people to devaluate it. It's very important. I think from the beginning, you really need to start from scratch and to have some basic needs, as you mentioned, like having home, having some structure of your day, going to language courses, find a job. So this is very important. But of course, the main problem, I would say, people suffering the most from the families that are separated. In Ukraine, we have a law that men are not allowed to leave a country, so it's based on a gender. And many families and many children are rising, not seeing their fathers, and many of them is fighting on a front line. And this is also the reason why they can't see each other often. And of course, it's a huge problem, huge suffering, and unfortunately I can't find answer for or solution for this. I think it's just important to understand it and to be very delicate with people, to find the words and to know how to express that you are sorry for their situation and how to support them, and what words could be maybe not supportive and it's better not to use them. And this is actually also part of educational workshops that we are doing, because when I came to Germany first time, I saw many people who just fled, and I was thinking, okay, maybe they lost someone in Mediterranean Sea while they were fleeing, and I was trying to find words, and I was afraid to say something wrong. And I think many people in Germany might also feel like that, supporting us and our speech to them, that they should not afraid, and we are always support also them in this, and it's just important to have this dialogue.
Talking about women and talking about speaking, we hear very often that rape is used as a weapon in war. And here in Germany, we hear often in the radio that Russian military force, or that Russian soldiers rape women in Ukraine. Is there any support for these victims?
Yes, unfortunately it's true. It's a very hard topic to speak, and among this women it's also children or young girls, and it's very difficult topic to me. I can't tell you much because we are focused on education, not on humanitarian support. But of course, what I definitely know that since 2022 in Ukraine we have a big project from government that leading our First Lady, Olena Zelenska, and it calls Yakty, which means how are you in Ukrainian. And this is a huge project to support people mentally. So there is a lot of psychotherapists for free that you could attend. And this is, I believe, what is so important in such a difficult situation for women, but also for women who are suffering violence that you have mentioned. That's what I know for sure. And I could say that since 2014, maybe one more change that I now understand I haven't mentioned, it's also mentally mental awareness, if I might say, of people from Ukraine, because we do support ourselves with therapy. Government puts a lot of attention, money, and also our international partners to provide people opportunity to stay mentally healthy. It's super difficult in such a crazy situation, but I'm really impressed how people in Ukraine are dealing with that and how they work on that.
That is indeed impressive. Do you think women play an important role in this mindset change?
I'm not a big fan, actually, of gender dividing of human being. But if you're asking about the role of women, of course, the contribution and role of women are really important here. Also, maybe because, as I already mentioned, most of the men are in the front line or staying in Ukraine, and that's put more responsibility on it about the children to the woman, because she's the only one who is in a dialogue and caring about child every day. In this sense, maybe it's a very high contribution also. And of course, I think that it's also maybe a stereotype, in my opinion, that women contributing more to something that connected with emotions or psychotherapy. I wish this to change also in Ukraine step by step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish so too, yeah. Talking again about now female-led movements, because this is the topic, do you know any solidarity movements from Russia?
From Russia where?
Solidarity for Ukrainian people, solidarity against the war.
No, I don't. I don't, and of course I know that there is people who fled Russia as for political reasons, but we do not cooperate with any organization like this, and I can't contribute here.
Okay, what do you wish regarding the war? Do you think there is any way out of this war without more and more people being killed and without Russia totally overtaking Ukraine? Do you think there is a chance?
Of course, I don't believe, but I'm know for sure that Ukraine will win this war. I think you could correct me, but I don't remember any war in history that was started with aggressor who then, let's say, got what he wants, but it's just a question about cost. How many people had to die in Ukraine? How many towns, cities will be destroyed for whole Europe to understand that this war is not about Russia in Ukraine. And also on an official level, politicians in Russia are openly saying that this is war between Russia and crazy West. So I wish the West and Europe understand faster what is going on, because it's not a matter of how this war will end. It will end with victory of Ukraine, and by victory I mean that whole territories that now temporarily occupied by Russia will be reoccupied and then will belong to Ukraine. But I'm more interested and curious, what is our plan of an international community to live with such an aggressive neighbor afterwards? Russia always will be there. There always will be maybe revenge movements. I don't know. But I think we already should reflect and talk about how to build a security system in Europe after Russia gave all the territories that it temporarily occupied of Ukraine. What is our plan? Because I think there are no a single person in the world who see that the system that we built after Second World War unfortunately failed. And unfortunately it doesn't work. And that is why the cost is very high. Human life, as we all proclaim in Europe, is the most important value. But unfortunately, I can't confirm, I can't agree with that. It's very sad that we are not following these values now.
You said it's important to talk about it. Out of the top of your head, do you have a thought of a guideline when this war happens, how to deal with Russia?
Could you repeat, please?
You said it's important to have a concept on how to deal with Russia after the war. Do you have some suggestions out of the top of your head?
Wow, you're asking me a question like I am a diplomat or
I know it's hard. I just thought because you mentioned it.
Politicians, but I just really want us to admit, I know it's very hard to admit what is going on. I think we are all shocked by craziness that we see not on Ukraine, but also in another parts, in Israel, what is going on now. It's shocking for everyone, but I just wish us to think one step forward and talk about not like who will win this war or how to stop Russia. I think it's already quite clear, and people in Ukraine who are fighting, and unfortunately also many of them just giving their life. It's crazy for me to have a Ukrainian passport that I don't want to give for a Russian passport, never. But I also not proud at all that cost of human being is paid. It's crazy. So I wish we to discuss how we could have a future. Or maybe one idea to your question is that we use AI. And not all people understand that we should also use it in a place of Europe where war is going on now, in a sense that it's not people to people, it's not a man who is killing, as you mentioned in the beginning, it's a robot and robot who are killing, and we need people only to sit in a very safe place and to direct these robots. And Ukraine, it's very much digitally developed country. Also comparing with Germany, we have starting from Wi-Fi situation and closing topic with drones that now attacking Russia. This, I think, maybe answer to your question. I wish we to explain Russian Federation that in a world that we are having after Second World War, there is no space for coming in a tank to independent country and kill and attack people. And I think they should learn that they can't do it, and in a day they do it, some drones or robots will attack them. And this is maybe our future, so someone, because unfortunately we see that people not really learned from Never Again, some people. So maybe there should be other ways to explain them, and maybe also we should talk on their language, unfortunately. When you have someone who is talking of language of violence, of course you can behave like a diplomat, but you are really risking to lose your life, and this is what is going on now in Ukraine.
Thank you so much. Tatiana Kryokowska spoke about the female voices of women in Ukraine for the future. Thank you very much. Let's keep talking, keep educating one another, and see you again at Werkstatt Zukunft.